Alright guys, it's Shalom at the Paradox Gaming Network. You're going to notice we're on the old template today. We're doing a concept video, lots of math, lots of bits and pieces, so not a 2019 edition video. I want to talk about avoidance and I want to talk about focus. I've made this current as of 5.1. What we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about avoidance then and avoidance now. We're going to talk about how avoidance used to work. That way for new players, if you're trying to get help, and you're talking to somebody and they're like, no, that's not how it works. You can be like, no, it used to work that way, but I found out this is how it works now. Before we start, going to talk about our sources for the old stuff, how it used to work and why we have confirmation of how things used to be. Those are going to come from Quilladon, who was a Tryon employee at the time of the release. And then some of the new stuff, I want to give credit to Raffin from Aria. Caught the error in the first version of this video. I am by no means perfect. I am not going to see every single line of every single patch note. I actually missed an important one from last year. Raffin picked up on that, said, hey, Jay, you got a mistake. I also need to make sure to give mad props to Raffin. I've been using the Hiram spreadsheet and the Lunagem spreadsheet in some of my videos, and it is Raffin who is the creator of those spreadsheets. I didn't create them. I never claimed credit for creating them. That's why I never gave links to the spreadsheets before. When I looked, there was no author. I had no idea who the author was. Raffin contacted me today. I now know all of the sheets that are Raffin's. I've double backed and credited Raffin everywhere I think I used those sheets, and now I provided links to them in those videos because now I know who the author is. If I missed something, if you see where I use these and I haven't given Raffin credit, please let me know and I will double back and get the credit where credit is due. With that said, let's jump into focus first. And what is focus? Focus is the amount of the same level targets, block, parry, and evasion your attacks can penetrate. Now, block, parry, and evasion combined is what we call avoidance. And the order is evasion, block, parry. That's confirmed inside the character sheet now, and it's always been that way, just in case people say, well, how do you know that's the order? And it's actually in the character sheet. Focus is going to reduce avoidance stats by 0.003% per point. So it basically means 1,000 focus will give you 3%, 2,000 focus is going to give you 6%, and so on. Now this does mean that focus is triple effective for melee, because melee is going to take away 3% of your evasion, 3% of your parry, 3% of your block per 1,000. It's only going to be double effective for archers. I'll explain why a little bit later. And mages, you do not have to worry about focus at all. Your attacks cannot be dodged, blocked, or parried. So how avoidance used to work. First of all, evasion was 100% damage avoided, block was 100%, parry was 100%, and it was possible to have 100% avoidance from frontal attacks. This was mainly in PvE where you could control the direction, but a good player can always keep their front side aimed towards the enemy. And a lot of people get the order wrong, so I wanted to make sure that we quote, the order of avoidance has been evasion, block, parry. So it used to be that, it's still that, it's on the character sheet. So how avoidance used to work, evasion was any direction, block was only from frontal attacks, parry was only from frontal attacks. And this is why archery is only, focus is only double effective for archers, because you have to dual wield to parry arrows and you have to have the battle rage passive. So obviously if you're dual wielding, you're not blocking, and if you're blocking, you're not dual wielding. So archers only get double effectiveness. So for an example of how it used to work, you're hitting somebody from the front, they have 15% evasion, 50% block, 35% parry, and you have 0 focus. How you think it would work would be out of 100 attacks, they would evade 15% of them, 85 would go through to be blocked. 85 attacks to be blocked, 50% block rate would mean 43 would get blocked, 42 would carry on to be parried. Out of those 42 attacks, with a 35% parry rate, 27 would go through to do damage. That's how I thought of it 2 years ago. And actually, Quill came out and said, that's not true. Avoidance really is additive. So it used to be get 50% evasion, 50% block, and nobody could hit you from the front. What actually happened was, out of those 100 attacks, 15% evasion means 15 out of 100 get evaded, 50 out of 100 get blocked, 35 out of 100 get parried, and thus the 100% avoidance was in fact possible. How it works now, there's been some changes to the avoidance stats. So evasion is still 100% damage avoided. Block is only going to be 60% damage avoided, 40% will bleed through, but if you block an attack, it cannot be a crit. Parry means 40% of the damage is going to be avoided, and the attack cannot be a crit. This comes from the patch notes, and here's where Raffin had to set me straight, and I'm glad I caught the video before too many people saw it. Each effect, miss, evasion, shield block, parry, crit hit, normal hit, is calculated by their specific rate separately. So how it works now is how it should have been, logically. Those 100 attacks, same math, how it works. And the formula is total avoidance. This is from Raffin. The total avoidance is 1 minus evasion percentage times 1 minus block evasion percentage times 1 minus parry percentage. This does make a huge deal. It radically changes the effectiveness of your avoidance, and it starts to affect how focus is going to be relevant. So should you use focus? We're going to talk about that real quick. Going to use my stats for the example. My total avoidance versus melee is 60% versus archers it's 38%. The reason why it's so much lower is I use a shield, and since I don't dual wield, my biggest avoidance is parry, which I don't get versus archers. So a melee with 0 focus, off the bat, 40% of their attacks are going to hit. When they get up to 1,000 focus, 45% of their attacks are going to hit, because each melee focus reduces avoidance by 3% per 1,000, which means they're taking 3% off of my evasion, 3% off of my shield block rate, and 3% off of my parry. When they get to 2,000 focus, 50% will hit because they continue to chop it down. And this is all based on frontal attacks. For archers with 0% focus, right off the bat, 62% of an archer's attacks are going to land versus me. So when they get to 1,000 focus, 67% are going to hit. And when they get to 2,000 focus, 72% are going to hit. As an archer, focus reduces block or parry by 3%. So 6% per 1,000, because you can't parry range attack if using a shield. So is there some benefit to focus? Absolutely. If you can get focus without sacrificing other relevant stats, absolutely, put on focus. What's the big problem? Where's the primary place to get focus? Main hand weapon gems. Are you going to do that? No, you're not. Should you prioritize focus over critical damage? Absolutely not. Reducing block rate, block still does 60% avoidance. Reducing the parry rate, the parry is still going to do 40% avoidance. You want bigger hits when you do get through. When you aren't blocked, you aren't dodged, you aren't parried. You want bigger hits. You want your crits to be huge. And when you are blocked or parried, you want those attacks to be big, because the bigger you hit, the more that bleeds through. So you definitely don't want to sacrifice critical damage gems in your weapons for focus gems. But could you swap avoidance gems in your gloves for focus gems? I'd say this is a viable option. Archers could go focus versus evasion in their gloves. This would give them 2,000 focus and thus 12% reduction in avoidance. It will help them to put out a little bit more damage because more attacks are going to go through without being avoided, without being mitigated down by block and parry. Melee could do this as well, but good melee are going to be attacking from behind and on the flanks, and thus no block or parry. So if they can't block, they can't parry. They don't get credit anyway. You don't need the focus to punch through. Plus, as one of my viewers said, you always got to be careful as well. Once a melee trips you, you're tripped. You're pretty vulnerable anyway. So melee getting involved with another melee, they may want to keep their avoidance. But archers definitely, I could definitely see where an archer would want to sacrifice evasion gems for focus gems. I want to remind people, though, that when it comes to this, avoidance is only the first part in damage reduction. It's the first step. Did I evade? That's 100%. Did I block? That's 60% reduction. Did I parry? That's 40% reduction. But then you still have all the other stages of damage mitigation. You still have base defense, toughness, received damage, flat damage reduction, and if it's a critical, it's still going to be reduced by resilience. So keep that in mind. You don't, the days of going all in on focus are over, because in the old days we went all in on focus on weapons because we didn't have anything else to put in there. Now that we can put crit in there, you have to keep in mind, yeah, sure, I'm hitting you. I'm never being blocked. I'm never being dodged. I'm never being parried. But now my hits are so small that base, defense, toughness, receive damage, and resilience, all those ticks down, they're just reducing the attacks to nothing. One thing I want to talk about, one final thought today, and I'm going to talk about this same closing piece a couple of times. People in all the time, what I hear is, but the Koreans do, but the Koreans changed. Especially for archers, this really goes out to you. They play in a country that is 38,000 square miles. In the US, we play in the US, we play in the EU region. Korea would be the 37th largest US state. So they're playing in basically a state, because ping is a factor. And since they're playing in the 37th largest state and they have their own server in their own state, ping makes a huge difference. Go look at some of the Korean Archeage videos and watch archers, and their endless arrows is like a Gatling gun. They're just constantly spitting out arrows. With the ping, with the delay, North American and European archers, you're doing a lot less damage. That's why archers in Korea are so much more potent, because they're not as reliant, or they're not as suffering from as much ping. So always be careful when you see like the meta shift for archers in Korea. Keep in mind, they have 10 ping. And that's what they play at. So you're playing with 90, your endless arrows is reduced, and that's your damage filler. And that's it for today, guys. Once again, one more time, big shout out to Raffin for grabbing the video early and saying, hey, you have a mistake in it. And like I said, Raffin puts out great material. Hoping that Raffin puts, like at the top of the sheet, Hiram Gear by Raffin, just so, you know, get some credit, get some kudos to that. Content creators like me who see this great sheet, get handed this great sheet. I'm like, I don't know who to credit. You guys want to talk more? Grab me on Discord. I'm Jalan, #0001. Or join my Discord. I run a Discord full of people. You can usually get a question answered, or we get lots of controversial topics in there. I stream 3 times a week. You can jump in live. Like last night, we did a full breakdown of critical rate versus def pen. I'm going to be doing a video on that as well. And then big thank you to my sponsors. Without my sponsors, I couldn't do gift card giveaways. There's actually a giveaway in the description of this video below. You can go down there, check that out, grab some other links to stuff that you want to see, like those patch notes from 4.5. If you want to dig back through the old stuff, that stuff's down there too. Anyway, I got to put this into post-production. Like I said, second time I'm doing this video. I've actually already had it out once, but got to have the information right. If you're going to do an educational show, you got to be factually correct. You guys take care, and I will see you next time for either def pen versus crit rate or the next to the class videos. Take care, guys.
Hey, where are you going? You're not done yet. See these videos? This video's up here to watch. You gotta go over here. Hit the chibi. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the webpage. And I'll see you guys on Twitch.